Good afternoon. You're listening to My Conscious Dad on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I'm your host, Jasmine Urbina, here in the studio with my dad and co-host, Alex Urbina. So today we're going to
Jasmine.
Hi, Dad. Today we're going to be talking about fearful parenting. And we have not just one, but two very special guests today.
Yeah, absolutely. We have Sue DeCaro and Aaron Taylor. They're both PCI certified parent coaches who work with parents overcoming daily challenges and struggles in their life. In addition, they're both co-founders of a community, online community called they're called the BCC, the Building Connected Communities. And I'm going to let them share a little bit more about that and what they do. And ladies, are you there on the line?
Yes.
Hey, thanks for joining us. I appreciate your time for calling in.
Sure, our pleasure.
So tell us a little bit about the BCC. What do you guys do, and how do you guys support the communities?
Well, building connected communities is about bringing people together for our children and our world, and that's really the bottom line. So we are a company that is dedicated to supporting parents, supporting teachers, supporting youth sports coaches, as well as other professionals that are like-minded with the same type of mission as we have, that are supporting families each and every day. So basically anyone who is impacting the life of a child.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you just decided to create this network and invite, business professionals, like you said, of like mind that are empowering and building up our kids rather than trying to control them or, muscle them or make them do things. And it's very inspiring of what you guys are doing.
I really, really like this idea of having, especially people who work with kids and are in the school system, having teachers and, like you said, sports coaches. To me, that's very, it almost puts my mind at ease a little bit knowing that there's people out there who are really trying for kids and, they're having this, conscious awakening and doing things for these kids that aren't just the norm, which is just teaching and maybe inspiring them a little bit when they have all this practice with you guys and this work with you guys. That's really great.
Thank you. We recognized in our work as we reached out and connected with various professionals over the years that, we've been having the consciousness, mindfulness conversation in parenting as parent coaches. We've been having that conversation, and we realized that it needs to also happen in schools, and it needs to happen out on the field and on the courts, because there's a lot of unconsciousness that goes on in the sports arenas. And so we kind of heard that calling that it was time to bring all these groups of people together and get everybody on the same page who is impacting the life of a child, so that we can all really honor the unique spirits of children and see them for who they are and help each and every child to blossom into the fullest expression of who it is they are meant to be.
What I love most about having you guys on the call today is the topic that I want to talk about is fearful parenting. And when I think of fearful parenting, I think of the parent that brings all of their fears and doubts and insecurities with them into their parenting style, and unconsciously allowing those fears to get in the way of them being the space to draw out all the greatness from their kids.
We see that a lot, Alex, in our work. Parents that come to us or come to our workshops that are really parenting from a place of fear. And the fear, unfortunately, comes from somewhere, deep-rooted in their past or, in their vision of parenting that, may not be what they're seeing. And those fears actually take them down, the slippery slope in terms of thought processes where, one thought about whether my child is going to read when they hit kindergarten, takes them to, oh my gosh, if they don't read by kindergarten, then they might not be able to, move into first grade. And then, they're starting to think already about college. Those fears just continue to build upon one another as they go down that thought process. So, one of the things that we do is, again, bringing that consciousness and that mindfulness to life and working with parents to try to help them to go deep, get to the root of the fears. We work with them to get to the root of the fears in a coaching practices, and understanding what they're bringing, the baggage that they're bringing, the history that they're bringing, work within themselves to kind of heal some of those issues that they might have from their past that they're bringing into their new role as parents, and not bring that fear into the parenting world with their children, where what we see is it gets dumped on the kids, all the past baggage, whatever went on, those hurts, those pains, that ego, all kind of unloads into the world of that child and can really affect the child in a very negative way.
One of the things that I find that's underneath at the core of, where the fear sits, is right underneath enabling. And I know that parents love their kids probably more than they love themselves. And so out of that love, they want the best for their kids. And I think that you can actually, I don't know if this is a real word or a term, but I call it over-loving. I feel like you can over-love someone to the point where you cross into this fear-based parenting. And when you love your kids so much, or you over-love them, you step into this realm of having these fears, like I'm afraid that you're going to get hurt. So if I'm afraid that you're going to get hurt or let down or rejected, then I'm going to come in and I'm going to save you. I'm going to make it easier for you so you don't feel those pains. But I think parents don't realize that when you're operating from that fear and you're enabling your children to have those experiences, you're robbing them from an opportunity to learn grit, to learn perseverance, to learn how to push through, how to break through, how to overcome, how to adapt. You're robbing them from those opportunities.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I have two comments to make. Number one of the things that we really try to help parents to do is to start to recognize the many faces of fear and how it shows up in their lives. And in fact, we're in the process of creating a 6-part mini-series called Facing Our Fears. It is on our YouTube channel at Building Connected Communities on YouTube. And so anyone who would want to join us to watch that, the first 3 are already there. And we'll be doing the next 3 over the next few weeks. But once the parent is able to start seeing those insidious ways that fear sneaks in, whether it's in the form of overprotection, helicopter parenting, hyper-focusing on the grades, overreactivity, resistance, denial. I mean, there are so many ways that it can show up. And until the parent recognizes those things as having fear at the root, then they can't really address the fear because they don't even know that what they're unconsciously doing is fear. So we help them to really start to see what fear looks like and how it shows up in their lives.
Well, that's what I like. That's what I like about the mini series that you got going on, is that you show scenarios, you show, you give examples, and so that when people are watching those examples, they're recognizing themselves in some of those scenarios, going, "Wait a minute, I do that." Or, wow, that looks like me, or that sounds like me. And so it's just, subtly pointing those out from a loving, compassionate place, realizing that that every parent is, loves their kids and wants the best for them. You do it in a subtle way. It's not like you're, pointing it out in a harsh way. It's just subtly so that they can identify that they could be possibly unconscious and operating from fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly true. And I think as people start to watch as we record part 4, 5, and 6, we will go much deeper into the awareness of our fears, recognizing those fears, and some solutions or tips to help parents to manage their fears, to move through their fears, and to create a healthier world for themselves and their children. So it'll get much deeper as we continue to go on. And I think rescuing is a huge part of fear. And as you mentioned, building the grit and the perseverance in our children is so important. Resilience. And so when we are parenting from a fear-based place and become that savior, for our children, so to speak, in terms of rescuing them from getting hurt or forgetting something, they don't learn to fail. I think, Erin, you would agree with me that, we believe giving a chance to giving our children a chance to fail is okay. Not rescuing them, but allowing them to move through what that feels like and learn some sense of resilience, learn some tools of humbling maybe, and how to move past some of the pain of just everyday life. Because if we protect them and rescue them as parents, we're not doing them any justice in learning what the world is like.
Here's one of the most common things, and as you're talking, I'm thinking about this scenario, and this is common, I think, for a lot of parents that have newborn babies. And the reason why I'm saying this, because I think my wife even had this experience, and because I remember my firstborn when he was young, an infant, and he was crying to a certain point. When you transition them from your bed into their own bed, they cry, for a certain amount of time. There's a period of time that they cry because they're used to, you being there or right next to them, or they're used to your energy or your whatever it is, that the comfort you were giving them. And so there's a little transition period where you transfer them from your bed into their own, and all of a sudden they would cry. Now, if you go to like your grandparents or somebody, a wise parent, they'll tell you, let it run its course. If you're strong enough to not let your fears get in the way of going and rescuing them, the crying stage will run its course. They'll go, half hour to 20 minutes to 10 minutes, and even in the half hour, they'll probably go a half hour and then probably vomit, right? Because you've seen little babies get to that extreme where they're crying and they stop breathing, they get really stressed, and then all of a sudden it's 20 minutes and then 10 minutes and then 5 minutes, to the point where all of a sudden you've let that natural process run to where they've learned to get past that stage and they're now comfortable sleeping in their own bed. And those are the early stages as a parent of not letting your fears get in the way of you giving them what they naturally need to move forward, to progress.
And I think I'd also like to add on to that example, when you bring that example up, when the way fear can show up in that scenario is, I think, at least twofold. Number one, it can show up as guilt. I am the worst parent on the planet.
That's
letting
right.
my child cry.
That's actually what my wife said. She said, I feel guilty. And then when I asked her, well, what are you afraid of? When I asked her that question, especially, and you guys know this, that's one of the most powerful questions you can ask your client is, what are you afraid of? And then it has them do some self-reflection. And I remember her telling me, I'm afraid that I'm not going to be there for them when they need me, or just being honest enough to say, I'm afraid that they're going to be mad at me, or I'm afraid that I'm not a good mommy. Just identifying that fear, I think, is powerful.
Absolutely. That is absolutely true. And so I think recognizing the fear in each situation, recognizing how it's showing up, because it doesn't necessarily show up as what you think of how you feel when you watch a horror movie, that kind of visceral fear. It doesn't show up that way. If it did, we would recognize it easily. So we have to look at the other ways it sneaks up on us so that we can say, oh, I see what's happening here. This is my fear coming out. Now I know what to do, or I know how to respond to it or face it. And then the other point I wanted to make about that enabling in that situation with the baby, if the parent does hold their ground and just not give in to the fear and allow the baby to cry it out, it doesn't take long, and then the baby cries less and less until they're not crying anymore. But if a baby, let's say, is going to cry 30 minutes for the first time they get put in their bed, their crib, if the parent is holding out, and then caves in 27 minutes later, then tomorrow, instead of waiting 30 minutes, you might be waiting 45 minutes.
That's right. That's right. You've created.
So as soon as you cave, you're making a monster.
Yeah, you've already created. You set a new tone for them. Now that they've identified, oh, okay, so now I just got to go 30 minutes.
Right.
You know, and then I get what you're saying. And you know, it's funny because I started that scenario with an infant, but now I can look at my daughter that's sitting next to me, 20-year-old, and reflect back when she was 14, 15 years old, and remember some of the times that I wanted to jump in and help her, and I remember forcing myself, and I got to say that I actually forced myself plenty of times to not jump in and help her because I wanted her to figure out for herself whatever it is that she needed to figure out, that she's powerful and that she can handle whatever she needs to handle. Do you remember? Can you recall any of those things that I've done like that?
Yeah, I remember, coming to you for advice, hoping that you would offer help because I was really bad at asking for help. But I remember asking for your advice, and that's all you would give me was your advice. And so I'd have to ask, well, okay, can you help me? I don't know what to do. I need help. And you would have to, and I could tell that it was hard for you to say no, but I know that. And I would go to my room mad, and I'd be like, oh my God, Dad doesn't want to help me, and make up all these things. But, I didn't know at that time that you were really, truly trying to help me. I just thought you didn't want to do it. You're lazy, or you didn't have time, or whatever.
I didn't care.
Right. And I didn't realize that it was really hard for you to say no. And in order to say yes to me. Does that make sense? To really give me a push and the drive and all those things that parents take away when they enable their kids.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think allowing our children to, and I practice this with my own kids, as well as try to encourage my clients, but allowing our children to move through some of the obstacles on their own, whether they are good, bad, or indifferent, by us as parents being by their side, walking with them, without giving the answers. Maybe just asking the questions. What does this look like for you? What would be the best move for you? What do you think, was right in this situation? And empowering them to make choices, even if they make the wrong choice. Empowering them to make those choices.
Yeah, I think that, coaching 101 is all about asking open-ended questions. And I think parenting 101 should also be about asking open-ended questions, so that you ask that question and force your children to reflect on themselves to see if they can come up with their own solution, their own answers. For me, conscious parenting is learning that skill, learning how to draw out the answers from within your kids as though they're coming up with it. You're just learning how to facilitate that process. And so that's, I think, what, conscious parenting is all about. Listen, ladies, we're about to run out of time, go on a break, but I want to give you some, just probably about 3 minutes to tell us a little bit more about the BCC. And for those business professionals that are listening that, are committed to, helping other parents or children, how do we plug into your community?
Well, it is quite easy to find us. We are at www.buildingconnectedcommunities.com, and you can also find us at Building Connected Communities on Facebook, and on Twitter we are BC Communities.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate you and all that you've contributed today. And I look forward to the future and, being, more in contribution on what you guys are up to and inviting you to be part of some of the projects that I'm on.
That would be great. Alex, thanks so much for having us.
It was my honor.
We really appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you so much, Sue and Aaron. That was really good insight, really good advice. I really, really like what they have going for them and that whole community, like I said, with the teachers and the coaches. I think I'm excited for that to be in schools for my kids. I really hope that that's something that travels on.
And if you could take it from a national stage and bring it into each community. And I'm sure they would love that, is for somebody to decide, I want that for my own community, and then be a representative or take that first step to say, I'm going to carry the flag, or I'm going to plant the flag here in Santa Clarita, and then rally around all your troops, all of your tribe, all of the wisdom and the community leaders that are committed to taking care of our own village, and then starting like a chapter. I think I can visualize that.
I don't know if I can visualize it yet in this scenario, but I think it'd be really great to see, as a student, to see my teachers really working hard for me, not just working hard for the school or working hard to get test grades up and all those kinds of things. I think all those things will follow when you're really working as a human being instead of just a teacher or just, a coach, or I'm not sure if that really resonates with a lot of parents or adults, but I know that for teenagers and kids, if they had that opportunity for their teachers and their coaches to go to these programs or be taught that this is a new way of teaching and this is what we're going to implement in all the schools around the world, you either are going to get on the boat or you're not. So, get on here with us. I think all the students would they would lose their minds. They wouldn't know what to do.
Is that inspiring to a young person to know that the people that are in their lives, like coaches and mentors and teachers, that they're doing work on themselves and they're reaching out to try to figure out how to reach the kids? It
is inspiring, but it's kind of like how you say that your clients, their kids get so excited and they're like, Mom, you're going to be late for your meeting. And they want them to go, and they're like doing anything that they can to support them in that. And I think it makes, from a student standpoint, it would make a student feel very special knowing that their teacher is there for more than just teaching them so that their test grades will reflect, or that reflect their work, or the state standards and all kinds of things. But I know I'm not an educator, but as a student, that's what I would like to see, or as my past self as a student, that's what I would like to see. And for my future and, my kids, I would like to see that for them.
But I also think it would also take a conscious teacher that has a certain comfort level of being authentic and opening themselves up and actually sharing with their class. Hey, I just need to let you know, I was at my class last night, and the kids look up. I can see them looking up going, your class last night, what class were you taking? Oh, I'm part of this group where we network and we try to figure out how to make a bigger impact with you guys. I can see the kids, like, their face lighting up like, wow, I didn't realize that you go and get help and network and get advice and figure out how to make a bigger difference with us. I think that would be inspiring for kids. I know it would for me when I was going to school, if my teachers shared like that. I don't think when I was going to school, if teachers actually shared themselves like that. It was more like, do as I say as I do, and don't ask me any questions. We didn't connect with our teachers at that
right.
level.
For a student to know that their teacher is doing this, like I said, it would just blow their mind. That's what I said. I can't even imagine it, because it's just, it doesn't exist right now. And I would love to see it exist. But also, I think it would be really great if teachers could ask for feedback. And I know I had a couple teachers that at the end of the semester, they would give us a piece of paper and say, what did you like about this class? What didn't you like? But they never really asked, what did you like about me as a teacher?
Nice.
Or what did you like about me as a professor? And I think it's a little bit hard, to be honest, so maybe don't ask them to put their name on it. But if you're a teacher or an educator or a coach, asking for that feedback is going to help you. It's the same thing as being a parent. You want to ask your kids for feedback, or you want to ask them what they want, and I know that in a class, if you, as a teacher, you ask, what do you want? They're going to say movies and popcorn. But if they're being serious, they're going to say, I want a teacher who cares, or I want a teacher who, cares more about us than the grades, or things like that.
Would you be honest enough to tell your teacher in that feedback survey, I would love for you to be more loving, more open, more vulnerable, more connected? Would you be willing to share like that?
Yeah, I think a younger me, maybe not, but me now, or even if my professors right now in college would give me that opportunity, I would feel comfortable putting that, yes. So stay tuned for more of My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.